The metal table at the Honolulu security checkpoint rattled. A federal agent unzipped my carry-on bag and pulled out a thick, clear plastic pouch packed with white powder. Walkie-talkies crackled. 3 armed officers stepped out of the crowd, grabbing my arms and shoving my shoulders against the cold steel of the inspection counter. I twisted my neck to look at my family standing just a few feet away. A normal mother would scream. A normal sister would panic. Catherine just pushed her designer sunglasses up the bridge of her nose. A tiny, calculated smirk pulled at the corner of her mouth. She reached into her bag, pulled out her boarding pass, and handed it to the gate agent. "Oh, honey," Catherine said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "You forgot to check your bag. You are not making this flight." She turned her back on me. Derek and Vanessa followed right behind her. They marched straight down the jet bridge, leaving me to face federal drug trafficking charges alone while they boarded their flight back to Texas. I sat in a freezing, windowless holding room at the airport. The air smelled like stale coffee and floor wax. Most people would break down. Most people would scream for their parents to come back. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced my breathing to slow. I am an estate paralegal. I deal with chaotic timelines and legal loopholes for a living. I close my eyes and analyze my situation like a case file. The family reconciliation trip to Hawaii had been my mother's idea. I paid for the flight. I paid for the hotel. Vanessa packed my bags on the final morning, claiming she wanted to do something nice for me. No. I was detained by federal authorities, and my family was in first class. The timeline clicked into place. The realization hit my chest like a physical blow. My grandmother's estate, $4 million in liquid assets and prime Dallas real estate. The mandatory in-person probate hearing was scheduled in exactly 48 hours. There was a specific ironclad clause in the paperwork. If the primary executor, me, failed to appear and was deemed incapacitated, the secondary beneficiaries could file an ex parte emergency executorship. My parents did not just want to ruin my vacation. They needed me locked in a cell for exactly 2 days so they could legally seize control of $4 million. It was brilliant. It was evil. They thought they had backed me into a corner. A guard tossed a phone onto the metal table and told me I had one call. I did not call my parents to beg. I did not call a public defender. I dialed Marcus Walsh. Marcus is a high-end corporate fixer and attorney. A year ago, I found a discrepancy in a massive estate case that saved his firm millions, and he owed me a favor. I explained the setup, the drugs, and the 48-hour timeline. Marcus possesses the kind of predatory grace you usually see in sharks. He told me to sit tight, keep my mouth shut, and let him work. While I waited, the memories surfaced, not vague feelings of resentment, but specific itemized receipts of every time I had bankrolled their dysfunction. I remembered being 24, draining my entire savings account to pay off a dangerous bookie because Derek, my father, had gambled away the mortgage money. He never thanked me. He just asked to borrow my car the next day. I remembered funding Vanessa's luxurious influencer lifestyle, paying her rent while she mocked my boring desk job to her followers. They had spent 29 years training me to be hyper-competent, not so I could succeed, but so I could clean up their messes. I was not a daughter or a sister. I was an insurance policy. They thought stripping me of my freedom would leave me helpless. They forgot that forcing someone to be the strong one builds a person who knows exactly how to destroy you. 3 hours later, the holding room door swung open. Marcus walked in wearing a charcoal suit and carrying a tablet. He demanded an immediate emergency drug panel from the federal agent, bypassing the standard bureaucratic holding time. The test came back completely clean. Then he slid the tablet across the metal table. Vanessa is not as smart as she thinks she is. Marcus said, on the screen was a video. Vanessa had uploaded a Get Ready With Me vlog from our hotel room that morning. She realized her mistake and deleted it 5 minutes later. But Marcus had hired a tech contact to scrape the deleted cache of her social media feed. The video did not just show a blurry reflection. It caught a hot mic, clear as day. The audio picked up the sound of a zipper, followed by Vanessa whispering to her mother, "It is in. She is not making the flight." The lead federal agent watched the footage. The entire narrative shifted in seconds. I was cleared. The authorities wanted to arrest Vanessa at the gate in Dallas, but I stopped them. I looked at Marcus. If they arrest her now, they missed the probate hearing. They will claim it was a prank gone wrong. I want them to hang themselves. Let them think I am still in this cell. Let them try to steal the money. Marcus smiled. It was the smile of a man who just closed a profitable deal. We boarded his firm's private jet. By the time we landed in Texas, the trap was already being built. From the war room of Marcus's penthouse office, I watched my family execute their digital character assassination. Vanessa posted a tear-filled, heavily edited video to her followers. She claimed I had suffered a severe psychotic break and begged for privacy. It was a masterclass in manipulation. By framing my absence as a mental health crisis, she discredited any accusation I might make later. Meanwhile, Derek was in a panic. Marcus ran a background check and found 3 maxed out credit cards and a fresh, dangerous gambling debt. Derek needed cash today. Not after a lengthy probate process. I looked at Marcus. They need a bridge loan. I said, we need to become their salvation. Marcus pulled a dormant, legally registered LLC off his shelf, a dummy corporation he used for anonymous real estate acquisition. He temporarily fronted $4 million in proof of funds from his firm's escrow account. It looked like a boutique hard money lending firm. It was actually a guillotine. Marcus dialed Derek's number. He kept his voice bored and impatient. He offered Derek an immediate cash bridge loan to clear his debts, using the $4 million estate as collateral. Derek stammered with joy. He agreed instantly. Then Marcus dropped the anvil. In order to release the funds, Derek and Catherine had to sign a sworn, notarized affidavit confirming that the primary executor was permanently institutionalized and they possessed sole emergency authority over the estate. Will that be a problem? Marcus asked. No, Derek said eagerly. She is locked up. We have the authority. We can sign today. They did not hesitate. They did not feel guilty. They were blinded by pure greed. 2 hours later, I stood behind a one-way mirror in a sleek midtown conference room. Derek, Catherine, and Vanessa were celebrating. Champagne sat on a side table. Derek's hands were physically shaking with excitement as he reviewed the loan document. Catherine wore a triumphant, arrogant smirk. Vanessa was busy taking selfies. The notary, a man in a sharp suit, placed the affidavit on the mahogany table. Sign here to confirm the medical incapacity of your daughter. He said, Derek and Catherine signed their names in blue ink. The notary stamped the seal. The trap snapped shut. I opened the door and walked into the room. The silence was deafening. The color completely drained from my father's face. Catherine dropped her designer bag onto the floor. Vanessa froze, staring at me like I was a ghost. I did not yell. I did not flip the table. I walked over, picked up the freshly stamped affidavit, and looked at my parents. I want to thank you. I said, my voice quiet, but commanding the entire room. You just signed a documented confession to federal wire fraud and perjury. Catherine tried to backpedal. Erica, she stammered. We were just securing the funds. We were keeping it safe for you. You committed a felony to steal my grandmother's money. I replied. Derek lunged for the paper, but the notary stepped in front of him. The notary pulled out a gold badge. He was not a clerk. He was an investigator from the state financial fraud division, brought in by Marcus for a slam dunk case. The investigator read them their rights. 2 plainclothes officers entered the room. They pulled Derek's arms behind his back. The sharp click of handcuffs echoed off the glass walls. Catherine began sobbing, begging me to tell them it was a misunderstanding. I turned my back to her, but Vanessa was quick. She dodged the officers, holding her hands up. I did not sign anything, she yelled. My name is not on that loan. You cannot touch me. The officers led her back away. Vanessa ran out of the conference room. He let her go. I knew her ego would not allow her to walk away quietly. The next morning, Vanessa struck back. She thought she had found my weak point. She leaked a heavily edited, out-of-context audio clip to the Texas Bar Association and my law firm. The clip was spliced together to make it sound like I had orchestrated the entire airport drug stunt myself for attention. She went live on her social media, crying to her followers, claiming her toxic sister was trying to frame their loving parents. She thought she was ruining my career. I sat at my desk, watching her live stream on my monitor. I picked up my phone and sent her a single text message. It was a screenshot, an email from Marcus to the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration, containing the unedited hot mic vlog footage from the hotel. I did not just clear my name yesterday. I handed the feds irrefutable video proof of you trafficking narcotics across state lines. Look at your door. On the live stream, Vanessa glanced down at her phone. Her face collapsed. The arrogant smirk vanished, replaced by sheer primal panic. Seconds later, a loud crash echoed through her audio feed. Federal agents breached her apartment. The camera jolted as someone shouted commands. The screen went dark. I closed my laptop. I wired Marcus his pre-agreed $150,000 consulting fee from the newly secured estate accounts. He texted back 5 minutes later, "Pleasure doing business with a shark." The fallout was swift, brutal, and completely public. The judge did not care about Catherine's tears or Derek's gambling addiction. They were both sentenced to 5 years in state prison for perjury and attempted wire fraud. The court ordered them to pay massive restitution fees, effectively wiping out whatever miserable assets they had left. Vanessa's influencer career vaporized overnight. The federal drug trafficking charges carried a mandatory minimum. She is currently serving 6 years in a federal facility. The community reaction was exactly what you would expect. The country club Catherine loves so much permanently revoked her membership before she even made bail. Our former neighbors stopped talking about the Bennett family entirely. They lost their freedom. But more importantly to them, They lost their reputation. A few months later, the prison letters started arriving. The hollow echoes of a defeated enemy. Catherine sent a 3-page letter written in pencil. It was completely devoid of accountability. She wrote about how hard her life was. She wrote that she was still my mother, that blood is thicker than water, and I needed to forgive her for the sake of the family. She tried to pluck the old strings of guilt that used to control me. I read the letter standing in the kitchen of my new home. I did not feel angry. I did not feel a sudden urge to write back and explain my side. I felt absolutely nothing. I dropped the letter into the shredder, listened to the blades grind the paper into confetti, and went back to making my morning coffee. My life now is quiet, and that quiet is expensive. I bought a beautiful house with a wraparound porch in a neighborhood where nobody knows my parents' names. I surrounded myself with a chosen family, friends who celebrate my promotions, colleagues who respect my boundaries, and a partner who would never dream of asking me to set myself on fire to keep them warm. We host dinners on the weekends. There is laughter. There is no tension hanging in the air, waiting to snap. I finally understand the difference between people who love you and people who love what you can do for them. If you are watching this, and my story sounds painfully familiar, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Toxic families rely on the illusion that you cannot survive without them. They designate you as the fixer. They demand your loyalty while offering you none. They want you to believe that absorbing their abuse is your duty. I had to learn 3 very hard rules to survive them, and I am giving them to you now. Rule number 1, blood is a biological fact, not a lifelong debt. Just because you share DNA with someone does not mean you owe them your future, your sanity, or your freedom. Rule number 2, the skills you build surviving them are the exact tools that will save you. They will force you to be meticulous. They will force you to be hyper-responsible. Do not hate those traits. Weaponize your resilience. When the time comes, that hyper-competence is what will allow you to build the boundary they cannot cross. Rule number 3, true closure is not an apology. It is a severed cord. If you spend your life waiting for a narcissist to say they are sorry, you will die waiting. Closure is found in taking back your power, locking the door, and walking away without ever looking back. Are you setting yourself on fire to keep people warm who complain about the smoke? If they built a cage out of your loyalty, maybe it is time to realize you hold the key. What is the one boundary you need to draw today before they take everything you have left? Drop a comment below and share your own survival story. Hit subscribe if you are ready to stop being the fixer and start reclaiming your life. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to be free. I know exactly what you are screaming at the screen right now. You are sitting there thinking, why on earth did she pay off her dad's gambling debts when she was 24? Why did she pay her spoiled sister's rent for years? Why did she not just walk away before it escalated to federal drug charges at an airport? Let me stop you right there. Erica was not weak, and she certainly was not stupid. What she experienced is a psychological trap called the slot machine effect. In clinical terms, it is known as intermittent reinforcement. Toxic families do not treat you terribly 100% of the time. If they did, you would leave immediately. Instead, they operate just like a rigged slot machine. They drain your wallet, your energy, and your self-esteem. But every once in a while, they give you a tiny crumb of hope, a hollow compliment, a brief afternoon of playing the happy family. You get addicted to pulling the lever. hoping that this time you will finally hit the jackpot of unconditional love. You stay for the crumbs. But when the illusion finally shattered at that security checkpoint, Erica did not just get mad, she got street smart. Let us break down the exact financial and legal moves she made to survive this, so you can protect yourself if you are ever in the crosshairs of a toxic opportunist. First, she used the building the case strategy. When she was arrested, she did not tip her hand or call her parents to scream at them. She stayed perfectly silent and let her lawyer scrape the digital cash for that deleted vlog and the hot mic. Never confront a manipulator without irrefutable receipts. If you just accuse them, they will gaslight you. Gather your evidence in the dark. Second, she deployed the audit strategy. Scammers, especially desperate ones with gambling debts, are completely blinded by fast money. They hate reading the fine print. Erica knew her parents would ignore the dangerous details of the bridge loan because they were starving for cash. She weaponized their own greed against them, letting them willingly sign a perjury affidavit. Finally, she executed the buyout. Handing over $150,000 to a lawyer sounds incredibly painful, but Erica understood that money is just a tool. She was not just paying a legal fee. She was buying an ironclad barrier between her and her abusers, while simultaneously securing a $4 million estate. Sometimes investing in your absolute freedom is the highest return on investment you will ever make in your lifetime. In the end, Erica did not survive because her family suddenly found a conscience. She survived because she finally understood what she was to them. Not a daughter, not a sister, not someone they loved. She was their safety net, their emergency fund, their fixer, the person they could drain, blame, abandon, and still expect to answer the phone. For years, Derek gambled away stability and expected Erica to clean up the damage. Vanessa lived off Erica's generosity while mocking the very work that paid her rent. Catherine wrapped cruelty in the language of motherhood, teaching Erica that loyalty meant sacrifice, silence, and endless forgiveness. But the airport changed everything. When that white powder came out of her bag and her family simply walked away, the illusion finally died. No more excuses. No more hoping they would become decent people. No more pretending this was just a complicated family dynamic. They were willing to put her in prison to steal $4 million. That was not family. That was organized betrayal. And Erica's greatest strength was that she did not waste time begging them to explain. She did not scream after them at the gate. She did not call her mother crying for rescue. She made one call to the right person, stayed silent, and let the trap begin. That is the difference between panic and power. Her family thought they had cornered her. Instead, they had revealed themselves. The deleted vlog, the hot mic, the fake mental health story, the fraudulent affidavit, the bridge loan, the signed lie. Each move they made only tightened the case against them. Greed made them careless. Arrogance made them blind. And Erica's silence gave them enough room to destroy themselves. By the time she walked into that conference room, the victory had already happened. The signatures were dry. The seal was stamped. The confession was official. She did not need to yell. She only needed to say, "You signed it." That is why this story matters. Because toxic families rarely announce themselves as villains, they use softer words. They say loyalty. They say forgiveness. They say blood. They say you are overreacting. They call you selfish when you stop being useful. But love does not frame you at an airport. Love does not fake your mental collapse online. Love does not try to steal your inheritance while you are sitting in a holding room. That is not love. That is control. And once Erica saw it clearly, she stopped negotiating with people who viewed her empathy as a weakness. She paid the legal fee. She secured the estate. She let the law do what guilt never could. Then she built a quiet life far away from their chaos. The prison letters came later. Of course. They always do. The fake apologies, the desperate guilt, the reminders that family is family. But Erica had already learned the truth. Closure is not getting them to admit what they did. Closure is no longer needing them to, sometimes freedom looks like shredding the letter, making coffee, and realizing your hands are not shaking anymore. So if you are the fixer in your family, listen carefully. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to protect your money, your peace, your name, and your future. You are allowed to walk away from people who only love you when you are useful. Blood may explain where you came from, but it does not get to decide where you are going. Have you ever had to cut off someone who treated your kindness like a resource they could spend? Have you ever realized you are not loved? Only share your story in the comments below. And remember, you are not selfish for leaving the cage. You are not cruel for locking the door. You are not wrong for choosing freedom over family guilt. Protect your peace. Protect your future. And never let anyone turn your loyalty into a weapon against you. Here is the ultimate verdict. You cannot negotiate with people who view you as a human ATM. Your empathy is a liability to them. Have you ever had to financially cut off a toxic relative? How did you finally walk away from the slot machine? Drop your story in the comments below. And make sure to hit subscribe for more real-world strategies on how to protect your peace and your pocketbook. I will see you in the next one.